prestige, mahogany panels, leather chairs, and the distinct air of entitlement that had suffocated me since my father's death 3 years ago. I quietly slipped into the quarterly board meeting, carrying my worn leather briefcase that contained more secrets than they could imagine. "Emma, darling," my stepmother Diana's voice dripped with false sweetness. "The coffee service needs attending to. Be a dear and make sure everyone's cups are full." I smoothed down my simple gray dress, a hand-tailored Prada that they'd assume came from a department store, and thought about the documents hidden in my briefcase. About how in exactly 27 minutes, their perfectly ordered world would shatter. "Of course, Diana," I replied softly, moving toward the coffee cart. My stepsister Victoria smirked from her seat, the seat that should have been mine according to my father's original will, before they'd somehow lost it. "And make sure it's fresh this time," Victoria added. "Last meeting's coffee was practically undrinkable. Though I suppose that's all we can expect from someone who couldn't even manage business school. If they only knew that while they thought I was finding myself, after dropping out, I'd actually built Phantom Enterprises, the mysterious company that had been systematically buying Harrison Global's shares through various shell corporations." I poured coffee with practiced humility, listening as Victoria presented her latest acquisition proposal. The board members nodded appreciatively, though none of them had noticed the fatal flaws in her numbers. Flaws that would become devastatingly apparent once today's meeting reached its true agenda. "At least one Harrison knows how to handle business," my stepmother beamed. "Though Emma dear, you've certainly found your calling with the coffee service." I bit back a smile, thinking of my real office, the entire top floor of the city's most prestigious building, where I ran an empire worth 10 times Harrison Global's market cap. "Speaking of business," board member Thompson cleared his throat, "we should address the elephant in the room. These mysterious share purchases." "Yes," Victoria straightened in her chair. "Someone's been buying up significant blocks of stock through various front companies. We need to identify this threat immediately." I moved quietly around the table, refilling cups, watching their faces. None of them had connected the dots yet. How each share purchase coincided perfectly with their biggest mistakes over the past 3 years. "We've tried to trace the purchases," Harrison Global's CFO reported. "They all lead back to something called Phantom Enterprises, but no one seems to know who owns it. Probably some aggressive hedge fund." Diana waved her hand dismissively. "Victoria, darling, have your team looked into it?" "Of course, mother," Victoria replied, though I knew her investigations had hit dead end after dead end. "We're also moving forward with the Wilson merger next week. That should strengthen our position against any hostile moves." I suppressed a laugh. The Wilson merger, their supposed salvation, was exactly the opportunity I'd been waiting for. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket, a message from my real assistant confirming that everything was in place. "Emma," Diana snapped her fingers, "more coffee? And try not to spill it this time. Some of us are discussing important matters." I reached for her cup, remembering all the times they'd dismissed me after my father's death. How they'd systematically pushed me out of my own family's company, thinking I was too naive to fight back. "The merger documents are ready," Victoria announced proudly. "Once signed, Harrison Global will be untouchable." If she only knew that the Wilson family had secretly agreed to sell their company to Phantom Enterprises instead. That their precious merger was about to explode in their faces. "Should we begin the signing?" Board member Thompson suggested. "Actually," I set down the coffee pot, "I believe there's one more item on today's agenda." "Emma," Diana's voice turned sharp, "the adults are working. Why don't you go refill the water pitchers?" "I'm afraid this can't wait," I replied, opening my briefcase. "There's the matter of Phantom Enterprises to discuss." Victoria laughed. "And what would you know about that?" "Well," I pulled out a thick folder. "As CEO and sole owner of Phantom Enterprises, I believe I know quite a bit." The room fell silent. Diana's coffee cup slipped from her perfectly manicured hands, shattering against the polished floor. That's impossible," Victoria stammered. I smiled, thinking of 3 years spent building my revenge while they thought I was serving coffee. "Actually, dear sister, impossible is just the beginning." The Harrison Global boardroom had frozen in time. Diana's spilled coffee spread across the floor like a dark tide, mirroring the wave of realization washing over their faces. Victoria's perfect composure cracked as she frantically flipped through her merger documents, searching for any escape clause. "This is absurd," Diana finally managed, her voice trembling. "Emma can barely run a coffee service, let alone a major corporation." I moved to the head of the table, my father's old seat, and opened my laptop. The screens around the room came to life, displaying Phantom Enterprises' true scope. "Currently, Phantom Enterprises owns 48% of Harrison Global's shares," I stated calmly. "And as of this morning, we've acquired Wilson Industries outright." "I believe that was meant to be your merger announcement, Victoria." You can't." Victoria's face had gone pale. "The Wilson family agreed to our terms." "No," I corrected her, pulling up the signed contracts. "They agreed to my terms. 15% above your offer, plus guaranteed positions for their key executives. Something you forgot to consider in your proposal." Board member Thompson leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "If what you're saying is true." "Oh, it's true." I clicked to the next slide. "Phantom Enterprises has been acquiring Harrison Global shares systematically for 3 years. Ever since you all voted to invalidate my father's will and push me out of the company. We were protecting the company's interests," Diana snapped, attempting to regain control. "You were barely out of college." "Was I?" I pulled up another document, my father's original will, the one they thought they'd destroyed. Or was I exactly where my father wanted me to be? On track to lead Harrison Global into the future he envisioned. "That will was declared invalid," Victoria protested weakly. "The copy you presented was invalid," I agreed. "The original, however, has been quite safe. Along with some interesting emails discussing how to handle the naive daughter after my father's death." Diana stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is blackmail." "Oh, Diana. This is business." I distributed folders to each board member. "Inside you'll find proof of every questionable decision made since my father's death. The failed Asian expansion that Victoria championed without proper due diligence. The real estate deals that mysteriously favored Diana's brother's company. The consulting fees paid to shell corporations owned by board members' families." The room grew deathly quiet as they reviewed the documents. My phone buzzed with a message from my real assistant. "Press release ready. Financial media already requesting comments about the Wilson acquisition." "You've been watching us this whole time," Victoria whispered, while serving coffee. "Someone once told me the best way to understand a business is from the ground up," I replied, thinking of my father's lessons. "Though I doubt this is what you meant when you assigned me to coffee duty." "The board won't stand for this," Diana declared, though her voice lacked conviction. "The board," I gestured to the increasingly uncomfortable members, "is currently reviewing evidence of their own complicity in your schemes. I imagine they're quite interested in my offer of immunity in exchange for their cooperation." Board member Thompson cleared his throat. Perhaps we should hear Ms. Harrison's full proposal." "Emma," Diana's voice turned pleading, "we're family." "Family." I laughed softly. "Like when you had security escort me out of my father's funeral. Or when Victoria told investors I was mentally unstable after father's death." The screens switched to live news coverage. Breaking: Phantom Enterprises acquires Wilson Industries, reveals majority stake in Harrison Global. Victoria grabbed her phone, likely seeing her carefully cultivated business reputation crumbling in real time. Diana sank back into her chair, her perfect mask finally cracking completely. "Now," I stood at the head of the table, exactly where my father had always meant me to be. "Shall we discuss the future of Harrison Global? I believe some significant changes are in order." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the boardroom as I outlined my vision for Harrison Global's future. The board members leaned forward, increasingly engaged as they realized I wasn't just their nemesis. I was their salvation. "The company has lost market share in 12 key sectors," I explained, clicking through detailed analyses. While Victoria was busy arranging merger photo ops, our core businesses were bleeding money. "That ends today." "You can't possibly understand the complexities," Diana began. "Like the complexity of hiding $40 million in losses through creative accounting?" I interrupted, pulling up the forensic reports. "Or the complexity of funneling contracts to your brother's companies at triple the market rate?" Victoria's designer purse slipped from her lap as she saw her own mismanagement displayed in ruthless detail. Those projections were approved by board members who were too busy collecting consulting fees to actually consult? I turned to the increasingly uncomfortable board. Speaking of which, those fees will need to be repaid. Every penny. This is extortion. Diana stood up, her perfectly coiffed hair finally showing signs of distress. No, I smiled coldly. This is accountability. Something Harrison Global has sorely lacked since my father's death. My phone buzzed with urgent messages from major financial networks, all wanting comments about the mysterious CEO of Phantom Enterprises. About the woman who had orchestrated one of the most brilliant corporate takeovers in recent history. You have two options, I continued, distributing new folders. Option 1. Resign immediately, sign the non-disclosure agreements, and walk away with your reputation somewhat intact. Option 2. I release everything, every email, every fraudulent report, every backroom deal, to the SEC and the media. You destroy your own family's name? Victoria's voice cracked. Our family's name? I walked to my father's old portrait on the wall. The same name you used to push me out? To invalidate his will? To turn his legacy into your personal piggy bank? The boardroom screens filled with breaking news. Harrison Global Management shakeup. Phantom Enterprises CEO reveals identity. The press is waiting, my assistant said. And the SEC wants the files. Diana grabbed for the folders. Copies, I stopped her. The originals are safe, with recordings of every talk you thought I didn't hear. What do you want? Thompson asked. What my father wanted, I said. Harrison Global run right, ethically and strong. Under you, Victoria sneered. Under qualified leadership, I corrected. Something you could have been if you worked instead of plotting. I clicked the final slide. Harrison Global will merge with Phantom Tech. Our value will triple. But first we clean house. And us. Diana whispered. You explained to shareholders how you missed a 3-year takeover by the coffee girl. The next hour, signatures, resignations, panic. Victoria fled in tears as the news reported her failure. Diana sat frozen, her empire gone. By sunset I stood in my father's office. My office now. My phone buzzed non-stop. The transition team is ready, my assistant said. And your father's things are back. She handed me Diana's silver coffee pot. Have it cleaned and placed in the boardroom, I ordered. A reminder. Power doesn't always wear suits. Sometimes it serves coffee and waits. The next morning I walked into Harrison Global's lobby. Employees rushed to greet me. Board members who once mocked me waited nervously. In the boardroom I paused by the coffee service. Coffee, anyone? I asked. They shifted uneasily. Shouldn't someone else do that? One asked. No, I smiled. The best leaders remember what it feels like to serve. I took my seat at the head of the table. Not as the coffee girl, not the naive daughter, but the CEO who turned their insult into her weapon. Revenge wasn't cold. It was poured.